Everyone, we're back here on the sofa at the business show, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dan Mellins-Cohen. And we had a rapid conversation earlier about what you do and what we do, and we decided, well, we should talk about this.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us on the IRISPod. We're sure everyone's going to be excited to hear what you've got to talk about. And Dan, you run a company called BCMC Global.
No, I don't run the company.
Oh,
I
okay.
wish I did. That would be marvellous. Or then there'd be a lot more stress involved. I am the mere content producer. What I do run is the YouTube channel associated with the company, which I decided to call Inside Marketing.
Inside Marketing, and you've got a podcast launching soon, but loads of great content already there.
Yes.
What's the kind of subject matter that you talk about?
I know it seems quite obvious with a name like Inside Marketing, but
I guess it does.
yeah. So basically, the company itself is involved with like B2B events and media marketing, that kind of thing. So to try and go in the broader thought leadership side of things, we talk a lot about marketing and marketing challenges and solutions, of course. The things that I come to a lot of events like this, talk to people like you. It's lovely being on this side of the interview table for once, and being asked the questions, not trying to think of questions to ask.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically I talk to people like you about marketing, about your challenges, what you think are the big trends at the moment. And a lot of the key both mistakes and solutions that people have to them.
How important is, whether it's podcast, video, that kind of media output that really allows really every size of company now to tell their story in their own words?
Yeah. Oh, how important is it? I mean, video content is king is the current expression doing the rounds. I mean, when I started, it was content is king, but that's been updated. If you're not doing video, you're not doing marketing. End of story. Because that's where people are looking.
They can take it with them. It's on their device. It's mobile. It's accessible. And I guess video, but really what we talk about is the importance of the words being spoken. The audio is the quite often missing component, actually.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm an audio nerd at heart. That's where I came from. I did a degree in music technology. I worked in radio. I was literally, as I just said to you before, I was doing broadcast quality podcasts before the word podcast existed. That's a fact. You can look it up. I don't know if you can actually look it up. I think that was kind of the problem anyway.
Yes.
So yeah, audio very much my thing, has been all my life.
Why is it then that the audio, because, you've got lovely cameras, we've got the setup here. And I think quite often the bit that's forgotten is the quality of the microphone and is the production quality of the audio and the actual storytelling matching the pictures. Why is it that we can look at a TV screen in 8K, but the quality of the audio is just a cruddy, crammed, compressed load of rubbish?
Oh, absolutely. And the irony being that studies have shown time and time again that people would much rather, they're much more comfortable with a degraded visual but high quality audio, because if the audio degrades, you can't make sense of what's happening. Usually you can make a huge amount of sense out of a very small amount of visual data. And I think it's kind of perverse that precisely because of that, we put a lot more stock in the visual. So we all see the visual and think we need that to be perfect and crystal clear and beautiful and nicely balanced, well graded, well shot, well framed. But actually, most of that could go in the bin and you'd still be able to follow what was going on. But if the audio is degraded to the point where you can't make out all the words, and not some of the words, not make out all of them, you've no idea if your message is getting across at all. And a lot of the time, it's not even being heard.
I think it's so important. I mean, my voice is failing me. I unfortunately don't have COVID, but I have some other kind of cold thing. I've got to do a keynote tomorrow at the show.
I'll just take a sit back.
And move over. If people can see me on the stage, but they can't hear what I'm saying, that's going to be a pretty rubbish keynote.
Well, precisely.
You might have to step in.
I'll do my best. Or we'll just get a stenographer on the side and get subtitles on the screen.
Punch it up on the screen. So, we had that conversation earlier. I guess when you're producing particularly content that's maybe on site, you're out and about, you're in a location where you can't control a lot of the factors that are going on.
Oh, yeah.
What is it about that environment that's so challenging for a content producer, particularly on the audio side? And what tools are you currently using, but also feel that there's a gap in the market to really give that chef's kiss level of production, as our audio engineers would say?
Absolutely. So the biggest problem is, unsurprisingly, which is kind of why we're sat here talking, is getting a clear audio signal. That, again, it goes back to this thing. I've got videos up. Some do better. Some of the more successful ones, you'll see, will jiggle all the time because there's only we're in the middle of a busy thoroughfare a lot of the time. Just people walking near your tripod, let alone on the tripod, moves that bit of flooring and it all jiggles. No one cares. But if they can't hear what's being said, or worse, not worse. If they have to struggle to hear what's being said, they'll just give up. So noise reduction is a big problem. That one of the things I found, because I use little wireless mics, the Rode ones, on the little plastic stick. And one of the problems I found is there is a sweet spot that is basically impossible to reach between having it close enough that you get a really clear signal from your voice, but at the same time not so close that it starts clipping. Because I'll regularly hold my mic like this, and I found getting home, because I can't monitor in real time, because I'm trying to run an interview, I can't also have a thing in my ear and loads of other stuff going on, and I don't have a helper. So it's either going to come out crackly or it's going to come out noisy. I've just got to pick my poison. And that's hard enough for me, as someone who knows about the kit and is walking around with it day in, day out. I have to then give the other mic to a guest and just hope that they actually remember the advice I gave them about where to hold it. But 9 times out of 10, they'll pick up their mic. They'll go, oh yeah, well, thank you very much. It's very nice to talk to you. Anyway, I love doing this interview. And within about a minute, their hand's down here and you're capturing nothing. And you're like, whoa, can you just pick it up? And then it goes the other way. Another scream into the mic like some kind of 90s MC. And just then you end up with this signal that's all over the place. And the final thing I want to say about background noise, which is particular to events, the background noise are other people talking.
Yes.
Which means all the frequencies of the exact that you're trying to eliminate are also the ones you're trying to preserve. And so finding something that's tailored to exactly that kind of challenge is really a compelling thing. You wanted to know what my current solution is?
Well, I think you might have articulated our problem statement quite probably better than we ever have. It's definitely the problem. So what tools are currently there? Obviously, you've got ways of, using physical shielding or whatever it might be. But there are some software solutions out there, maybe not geared up for this exactly, and maybe not as lean as they need to be for certain production levels.
And I think that's the thing. You as always, you pick your poison. So obviously there is the king of noise reduction. No offense, I don't know IRISPod well enough until I came to this stand, obviously. But the one that has just been the industry standard, shall we say, has been Isotope RX, and it is amazing. But my God, do you pay for it? They will bleed you dry with every new version. But it is very good at what it does. The fact that they've got 2 different ways of dealing with it, depending on your use case, between voice denoise and dialogue isolate, that's very useful. It does work very well. But it is slow on a lowly consumer PC. And that round trip can be really laborious. That I come out of a shoot, and I've now got, at a minimum, 2 audio channels per interview. Usually like 8-9 interviews to go through. That's now 16-17 pieces of audio I've got to clean up, all of which need slightly different tweaking because they were all recorded in slightly different ways. So you can't just come up with an automatic macro list and just hit go and then it run through the batch processing. That's I've tried it, it doesn't work. You always end up having to go in back to the original and make corrections. So that side of it doesn't work. Then you've got brand new tools in like DaVinci Resolve came out literally like a week or so ago. Although I think it's limited to the paid for version only. Again, very expensive. Where they now let you do inline dialogue isolation, but it has its limits. It works in theory. It does do the job. But I've already found in using it twice that over a protracted piece of audio, that varies a lot. And you don't get that consistency of signal. And in many ways, at an event, I'd rather have a bit too much noise, but it be consistent, than it constantly be dipping in and out.
Yeah.
And the volume levels, I suspect this is an AI problem. I think they have an issue where it's trying to pick up on different vocals, but it's like, I don't know if you heard that laugh.
Yeah, that
just went
laugh
on.
kind of breaking
Now,
through.
it would have bounced that and added volume to that because it's gone, well, that's a voice. I need to raise that. And that's not valuable to me. That makes my life harder.
Yeah.
So I need something that knows how to reject that kind of thing.
It is an AI problem, and I guess, not to pump our own tires, but just to talk about the facts. The real-time version of Iris Clarity, which has many thousands of users on the desktop version for online meetings, even more thousands in the call center environment. Again, we're trying to clear out noise so that a conversation can take place, or maybe about an important matter, bank details or whatever. But and then exciting use cases. We've got the F1 simulator. You need to have a go, by the way.
Oh,
and
of
see what
course.
your time
I
will
never
be.
turned down an opportunity
Yeah.
to have a play on an F1 simulator.
Yeah, exactly. And then some of the other exciting use cases around.
So I do have
NASCAR.
to pause you on that just because something
Yeah.
tweaked in my brain that if you've seen other are we on that camera?
We're on this
or
one.
both,
for
or we'll
you.
go on that one. If you've seen several of my other interviews where I've specifically mocked the F1 simulator, this is a rare instance where it has real value. Because my big bugbear with those things is they have nothing to do with the company that's actually using it to get people in. In which case, you've brought a load of people in who aren't interested in what you have to offer. But you were telling me before why that's here. This actually is very specific to what you do. That was
Yeah,
all I wanted to
exactly.
say. So
Well,
it is relevant.
the
before you
rigor.
say things in the comments.
The rigor of developing a technology for a fast-paced, pinnacle of motorsport, and also, NASCAR that we're working with at the moment in the US, is it challenges you to solve problems, and then you can take that solution and apply it to everyday use cases. People at home, people working from the coffee shop, from a WeWork where they can't, have the luxury of a meeting room whenever they need to speak to someone. There's a solution that's born out of these high tech industries. But the main question that we got asked after we attended last year is, can I also use that technology in post-production?
Yes.
And that,
Guess what my question was when I came to this start?
and the answer is yes. And launching later this week is Iris Clarity Studio, which is a post-production suite that will allow you to do that at a varying level of subscription depending on how many hours or whatever you're going to use. So we're delighted to have you part of our beta group and give us
thank
advice.
you. I'm delighted that you invited me.
And I think one of the things, and just to pick up on a couple of the features that you talked about, sometimes you want to integrate 20% of the noise. You want the voice to be more punchy, but you want to take away not all of the noise. You still want to have the ambience.
I literally struggled with this yesterday where I overcooked it on Isotope, and in my laziness tried just bringing the camera audio in slightly in the background so that you'd hear the background noise. Didn't really work. I had to go and do it again.
Yeah. So that's a key feature. It's in the real-time app. It will be in the studio app. I think the other one that you picked up on is volume leveling of, if I'm speaking over here, or speaking really quietly, or speaking really loud into the microphone. That's actually very neurologically draining. You're either having to listen closely or, whoa, that's a bit much. So AI to bring the levels is another feature which you might be
very much so. If it can do it accurately, that would be brilliant. Because I'm sure you've probably noticed the same as you've been interviewing people. The tendency that people have is the more intense they get, the closer to the mic they get.
Yes.
And actually, that's the opposite of what someone who's trained does. The more, and you'll see this with very trained singers as well. The louder they get, the further away they get from the microphone to try and keep a consistent balance, so that when they get all the way up here, it still sounds the same to the ear. But most people don't do that. They get emotional, so they really want to get into it, and that's when your levels spike like that.
Tiana behind the cameras is probably freaking out about how we're going to level this all out after we've just done that demonstration.
Not with.
Well, no. Careful. Let's not get too salesy. Let's shift gears a little bit.
Yes.
Podcasts. That's a big thing now.
Oh yeah.
So you started with an RSS feed with essentially radio, but on the internet.
Yeah.
In 2003.
Yes. That was a dance music-based radio show called Circumference. Still rather proud of it. I think we did a good job. Basically, we were working on a station that folded, and we believed in the show. So we thought we want to keep it going. So we had already started making it available as a stream online. Everyone turned around to us and was saying, you should start an online radio show. So Yeah, who the hell in 2003 is going to make special time to go to their PC, go to a website that's not one they normally go to, and listen on Real Player, as I think it was at the time.
Real Player,
Yeah.
I remember that.
To a stream of a radio show. No one's going to bother. That's crazy. It'll just be a waste of time. So I put it up on just as an MP3 on the server each week and updated that file for people to download. But I'd read about RSS and I knew people were doing news feeds and stuff, and discovered there was a small but growing group of people who'd figured out that you could set your RSS feed up to download an MP3 automatically.
Really?
Which is exactly what your podcast player is doing every time you listen to a podcast. It's checking an RSS feed for a link, going to the link, downloading the MP3 and playing it back to you. But that word wasn't a thing at that point in 2003, so we just started doing it.
Where did it come from? The iPod? Is that why it was called a podcast?
Yeah, I presume so. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure.
We'll fact check that.
Yeah,
it's quite an interesting
I actually
one.
don't know what the presumably it came from the iPod. I can't think what else it would be.
I mean, the friction, like you say, to access, just an absolute wealth. I mean, some total shit, but you know, a wealth of amazing, you know, content, current affairs, people talking and educating others about subject matter that they are truly passionate about. I mean, some people, you know, just starting a podcast because it's kind of cool. I want to be like Joe Rogan. It's just a completely frictionless process. And that's probably why the boom has happened. And
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was also the prevalence of devices. It's the fact that it's grown ever since devices became more portable than they were static and standalone. So we grew up in an era where the main digital machine was the family computer or the office computer or computers. But now your main device for doing computer and digital stuff is the phone in your pocket. And people are walking around with earbuds on all the time. So it doesn't surprise me that it's the boom of the podcast era.
And I mean, where do you see it going next? Because you already see, you know, we've got a podcast.
Yeah.
We're a company. Why have we got a podcast? Great storytelling, great networking.
Yeah.
You know, not really talking so much about the product always, just around the product and the problem and the environment that we're trying to solve for. It's a powerful way of getting a story across.
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, I think we'll see an end to this. Everyone should be making a podcast all the time because it's already, arguably, it's already oversaturated.
Yeah.
So there will come a point where it will no longer be financially sensible for companies to put lots of money into doing a podcast when there's too many to find anyone to listen to. But on the other hand, what will happen, I think, as has happened with the internet and every other digital revolution, there'll be that the second tier is the nichification, where you find your community and your active voices. People get over eventually the idea that you don't need millions upon millions upon millions of people hearing your message, because you're not offering a service that's of value to millions and millions of people in that way. So it's better to have an empowered niche. And I think that sort of communifying, if that's not a real word.
Is that a word?
No, it's not.
Why not? It should be.
Communifying of businesses, I think, is probably where it is. What I'm seeing a lot, it's certainly like with the media and the YouTube space, is that it starts with building the channel. Then they might build the sort of podcast to go alongside it. Then they get the merch store. Then they get the fan store. Then they start building out, like, very much the community side of it. Then they'll do real life meetups and stuff. So I think it's really about the big, small community.
You've missed my favorite step in that process, because then you release the NFT. That's how I feel about it. I almost walked off my own podcast. I hate all that stuff. It's ridiculous, and it's just about to blow
don't get
up.
me wrong. There is a use case for the concept of what an NFT is.
100%.
Yeah, the idea of something on the blockchain that is verifiable by multiple places as being the original is very, very useful. Not for the art world.
Yeah.
Because it's not what you're buying. But that's a whole other debate.
No, I'm quite vocal about this, and actually some of the guys are like, I'm not sure you should continue to to rain on the parade of the metaverse. I was
Oh,
like,
you
no,
just caught me.
no, I'm going to rain on its parade, and rightfully so, because
Have I done a video for you?
have you really?
Oh yeah, it's actually my most popular video at the moment. Is one basically me spending 3 minutes slamming the metaverse.
Do you know what's funny though? Again, it's another example. We were fortunate enough to go to South by Southwest. I say fortunate enough. It was good in many ways, but it was also massively overloaded with NFTs, complete
Crypto bros,
and the metaverse. And I just thought to myself, at every session, I did not see, other than gaming, which I get, and social media type communities, I cannot see how slamming some virtual goggles on and walking into my virtual meeting room with my colleagues streamlines anything until. And the second thing is, once again, audio was the forgotten part to this.
Yep.
The visuals, yeah, okay, I can move around in this three-dimensional space, but the audio was again a forgotten sense. We repeat the same mistakes.
Oh yeah, it's been an issue in VR for as long as VR's been a thing. Trying to half the time headsets like come with terrible ear covers. I'm not even going to go so far as to call them headphones. But then you've got problems around spatial audio and both the delivery, capture, and presentation of spatial audio, how you make that work. And as you rightly said, the problem with voices.
Yeah.
That it just, the way we hear people speak and the way we infer things from what we see and relate that all, none of that comes together in VR. They're so separate that if you're not, it's not like, so if I look at you, I find it easier to hear you because I'm matching up the mouth movements that act as a corrective layer. But on the basis that that mouth movement is the thing that the mouth movement creates the sound in the real world, but in the virtual world, the mouth movement is created from the sound. So you can't trust that lip flap thing that's, in any way, it's not going to be very useful to you. It's just in the metaverse as it currently stands, it doesn't even move like a proper mouth.
No.
So you can't combine those things, and therefore you end up, I know they've been trying to do things where, like, the further you get from the thing, the quieter it is, but that means that now you've got the same problems as you have in real life, which you could fix, where it's like you can't just focus and say, I want to hear that person all the time, but nobody else.
Yeah.
But if I get close to them and do this, I then want to be able to hear them. It's a lot of extra work.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's that friction point again. I don't think it's frictionless. But anyway, we're straying into controversial. Well, it's not that controversial. We're straying into adjacent territories, shall we say? Dan, it's been wonderful to have you on the
Thank you. It's been great being
IRISPod.
here.
I've really enjoyed chatting with you today, understanding about the use cases for the technology that we provide, but also understand what you're doing, the channel you're building, Inside Marketing. People should check that out. Where can they find it? Is there a URL?
On YouTube, thanks to the wonderful world of handles that they now are, it's /@inside_marketing, which looks much better than it says out loud, because all the channels now have an @ at the beginning.
They do.
Inside_marketing
Excellent.
is how you'll find that one. BCMCglobal.com is the website if you want to see what we do as a wider business in the marketing space. If I don't get the plug in, my boss will probably be annoyed with me.
That's the whole point of this thing.
Exactly. Plug away.
Excellent. Dan, thanks so much.
No, thank you. It's been awesome.
Cheers. Guys, thanks for joining this episode of the IRISPod live here at the Business Show. We've got loads more content coming up. I don't know who we're speaking to loads of people tomorrow. And also, we're at the Call and Contact Center Expo next week in this same venue. Unfortunately, we have to dismantle the stand and put it all back together again.
Oh, I'm going to be at the Marketing Tech Expo right here next week.
There we go. We can hang out
catch
again.
you then. Yeah.
Excellent. See you again soon.